Hello and welcome to video 3 of the Introduction to Mathematica. In this video, we'll talk about how to solve equations, solving differential equations, integration derivatives, linear algebra, matrix operations, managing data, as well as covering functions. So where we left off, we're actually going to go into functions for assignment. We've been doing this for a while now, but I want to cover a little bit more about it. So we're going to create m and assign that a value of 5. We can also, by using the semicolon, assign multiple objects at the same time. We can do m times m, as well as make this a little bit more complex. To clear objects, we just simply say clear, square bracket, and then list all the objects with a comma. We can also do colon equals, it's going to be for definition or delayed assignment. So we're going to go ahead and we have a function. So a function f denotes a functional form. Square bracket is going to indicate the arguments for the function. And then the colon equals is I needed to define the function. So we're going to go ahead and create a function here called for f. We also have one for g within here. What we can do is f, and I'm going to put the 1 into this equation. So 1 raised to the 1 power minus 5 plus 7. We can also combine the functions together. So we're importing pi divided by 3 into the g equation, the g function. We can make this more complex as well. We can also embed a function within a function. We can clear the functions, and let's go ahead and clear object A. Now we've already talked a little bit about the replacement or replace all for substitution, but let's go ahead and we're going to create an expression. We're going to replace the y with a 2. We're going to go ahead and replace the x with a negative 3. We can also do multiples with there too. And let's go ahead and clear that expression. So whenever you have a curly bracket, that's going to be a list. So I'm going to call this my list. We're going to take that recently used one, raise the numbers to the second power, and add 5 to them. So we can also use %%. And then if we use my list to the third power, we can also do that as well, or just take each of those and subtract 3 from there. We can go ahead and clear that object. We can also do things like using tables and indexing elements. So I have a list 2. And with this, I'm going to ask for the third indexing element, which is going to be a 9. With this one, we want within list 3, what is the 6th element? We can also clear that as well. So we do a list 4. Then ask for the table form within this. We can also use passing the same information by using the % symbol. And %//table form. Let's go ahead and clear that. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and use some things like vectors and dot products. So I'm going to go ahead and create a vector. Taking 5 for that. A plus B. We can also do dot products. I'm going to go to clear that. We're going to go ahead and do some matrices now. So we'll call this mat1. If we use matrix form, so we have 3, 4, 5. That's going to be the first row, second row, third row. We can also do indexing. So what is the third row? Using all in 3, we're getting the third column. If we want the second row, third column, that specific value of 7, mat1, we can just plug that in as well. We can also do things like taking the inverse, then matrix form, multiplication versus dot plot for matrices. So notice the differences there within there, the dot product. We can also transpose and take the inverse with that. Let's see, we're checking some things. Okay. So we can, now you also want to be careful with matrix form and traditional form. So we're going to go through some of these really quick. So let's go ahead and try this instead. Let's go ahead and clear that. So we're going to go ahead and try to solve some equations, and then we're also going to go ahead and add a couple things for differential equations and integration, and then some derivatives. So we're going to go ahead and solve. So we're going to solve for x, its potentials. We can also use and solve for numerical approximations. We'll indicate the variable. And we can also use for checking for different solutions. We use the solutions and we'll try to solve for it. And we'll go ahead and put that in a table form. We'll substitute fx using solutions. And then again, some indexing that we can do with this. We can also do systems of equations. So we have multiple equations within there and trying to solve for them. And I'm going to go ahead, before we get to import data, for the last one, I want to go ahead and add some information in here. So we're going to go ahead and do a first order differential equation. So we can go ahead and get that information. We can also solve the following integral. So we go ahead and add a new form there. So this one, let me go ahead and get rid of that extra space. I'm going to go ahead and evaluate that expression. So essentially just trying to integrate. So for, let's say it was an e raised to the x to the second power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to get the derivative with respect to x. Great. Now, what we can also do is we can import different types of data. And for time, there's also various different types of information we can go ahead and do for defining matrices, the diagonals, and so forth, and transposing. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and look at the different type of import formats. So these are all the different types of imports that can be imported within Mathematica. What I do now is we're going to figure out what our current path is, what our directory is currently. So right now I'm in the documents. I'm going to go ahead and set the directory. So I'm going to set this as my desktop and call that my dir. I'm assigning that as an object, and I'm going to go ahead and do set directory function in the object. That's going to go ahead and set my directory. So when I go ahead and do directory square brackets, now we're back to desktop. Great. What I do now is I have a sample data set. Oops. Let me minimize this for a second and minimize this. So this is our sample data set that we're going to import into Mathematica. So I'm just waiting for it to load. Apologies, my computer is being a little sluggish right now, so I'm going to continue on, but we're going to go ahead and import it. So we're going to import sample underscore data.csv in double quotes and square brackets. And that's we're going to go ahead and say this as an object called sample. So we're going to evaluate that. And let's go ahead and get the names. That's going to be the first row. So we have years, nominal GDP, and money growth. What we can also do is run this. And that's going to go ahead and provide some information too from the second row. So 1995, 1996, 1997, so all the information by rows. We're also going to go ahead and let's say we wanted all from the second column. So it's nominal GDP. We can also use list plot data all. So we're going to go ahead and do this for all. This is going to be column 2. And we're just creating that scatter plot though there too. We can do a list line plot. So rather than a dot, it's going to be a single solid line. In data list plot, starting at 1995. So a couple of resources I do want to mention. The first one is on that same page that we downloaded Mathematica. If you scroll all the way down, there are different Mathematica tutorials. There's a hands-on start to Mathematica. This provides a little bit more depth for interactive examples and so forth. There's also some different programming. This is a nice book about it. So if you wanted to purchase that, there's that option. There is some different options here too, some different topics. If you're teaching with Mathematica, a free video course and some tutorials. And if you're doing research with Mathematica, some different options as well. What I do want to point out is there's also reference.wolfram.com/language, and this is a documentation center. So if you're looking for a specific type of analysis with a specific type of data, like let's say that you're looking at data manipulation and analysis. So we can go ahead and some of the different topics, let's say you're really interested in, let's say, machine learning. This provides a bunch of different functions that can work with this. So let's say we wanted to go ahead and use classify. It has the different types of functions that we have. This also details some different options that we can use within this. They also have Markov models, which is really nice. And then there's also examples here too. So we can actually copy this, put this within our data set, and then go from there. So this is a really fantastic way to go about doing this. There's also some text analysis, some computer vision. and some other types of different related guides as well. So if there's something you're really interested in using Mathematica for, highly recommend pulling up the documentation and going through it and going through some different tests to familiarize yourself with the code before using actual data. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you.